Welcome to a Remedyforce Architect session. I have listed here the steps we're going to cover today, and I'll just jump right into it. Customer today asked for a little more functionality. They said we have an existing set of service requests in Remedyforce, and we would like to allow our end users through the self-service portal to pick an urgency on their service request. The urgency that the end user selects should drive the SLA. In this case, SLA being the due date on the ticket that comes in. Customer also provided me with a little bit of input in terms of what the urgency SLA should be, or the SLA should be based on the urgency, to say that better. So, for instance, critical, they came up with 1 through 3 days. We can only do one of these, so I'll just use the 3-day option. So you'll see when I do the critical, it will actually be set to 3 days. When I do the low, it will be set to 20 days. And I'll also show you today how we did the actual design, how we added a brand new urgency value. Remedyforce doesn't have the value of critical. I added a new value there. I then added an agreement in Remedyforce, selected the business hour, and then added the service targets, which we'll talk about here as well. So I'll just jump right into it. We'll actually bring over this screen. We're going to bring over Remedyforce. Here is the actual urgency. So we only have, like I discussed before, high, medium, and low. High, medium, low. Here is the actual urgencies. I added a brand new one of critical. Nothing else. I didn't require anything else but the value, and that's it. Literally just added the value of critical. Saved it. That then allowed me to make the agreements, and we'll get into those momentarily. The urgency, as we discussed, should be selected by the end user. The existing service request we'll use will be this service request called Care Everywhere. The service is Epic, and that will come in handy again for the agreement. For our service level agreement, we need a service, so the service of Epic here. And as I said, they want their customers to be able to select the urgency. So I didn't actually add this yet. I wanted to just show that you can add this, and it's actually quite simple. So I'm going to add another question here, and the question type is going to be lookup. Here I get a chance to choose the object I want to use. I'll pick urgency. I don't need a lookup filter, and I'm zoomed in a little bit to make sure you can see it better. Here you can actually pick if you want a lookup filter. I do not. I want all 4 of the urgencies there: high, medium, low, and critical. And then let's give it a question. I'm sorry, a question that the user can answer. Maybe no colon. I don't think the other ones do. Since the urgency is going to drive the SLA, drive the due date, let's make it required. Save. By default, Remedyforce adds it to the bottom. Again, this is a required field. It's an important field. Let's move it up. So I'll move it all the way to the top and save it. So we now have added a question called urgency of request. It comes even before the contact name, and it's required like the others. Let's take a look at it now as well. So let's come out to the Care Everywhere option, and we can see that we now have urgency of request selected, and then here's the options. So we've now added that option, urgency of request. Because we added critical, when we actually linked our question to urgency, the critical, high, medium, and low options all displayed. Let's now come over to the agreements. This is how we can set up the due date. So in agreements, I went ahead and created a brand new one, and I created a new agreement labeled Epic. the agreement type, I selected service level agreement, and then for the service, I selected Epic. In order to save a new agreement, you have to use valid effective from and until dates. So I just picked a date in the past, then a date in the future. If these, if someone creates an incident or a service request and it's outside of this the effective dates of your SLA, it won't fire. So I just suggest pushing it out as far as you need to. If at some point you need to disable these, you can by inactivating it or deleting it. I like to just, for ease, just push out this effective date as far as possible. That's also, as I said, pick some support hours. So we'll do that. We'll pick the 9 to 5 central hours that this company uses. We'll select that. We now have our agreement set up. Now let's make some targets. I said that the urgency should drive the SLA. So on the service targets for this Epic service level agreement, and the reason I'm calling it this is these service level agreements should only adhere to, excuse me, these service level agreements should only fire when the customer picks an Epic service request. So there's other service requests in here, but only the Epic ones should have the option of picking the urgency, which should then automatically set that due date. Let's go into one. We'll go into critical. The target type here is resolution. The support hours, we'll choose these 9 to 5 central, and then we'll set it to 3 to 5 business days. I'm going to bring back that sheet again so you can see. Customer asked for on a critical 3 to 5 business days. You can only breach at one point, so I chose 3 days. What we could do to maybe utilize that one day as well is we can set a milestone. So this is how long the customer has 3 business days. This is how long the staff member that gets assigned this has to resolve it, 3 business days. But we could set a milestone. We could say, listen, at one day, send an email, maybe to the staff member or to the staff member's manager. At 1 day or 2 days, we could do that. But as far as breaching, we're going to just use 3 days. Then I also use a qualification. I said, look, the urgency has to be set to critical. And that will actually set our due date. Now, whenever we create a service request out in self-service from the that's an Epic service request. If the customer picks the urgency of critical, we will have 3 business days to actually resolve that. The due date will get set out 3 business days in advance based on the 9 to 5 business hour schedule. And I will save that, and let's go out into high. I don't think these are all set with the right business hour, so high. Let's also look at the qualifications. I did actually copy these, so we'll set high here and save it. So that's how I managed to set this customer's requirements for allowing existing service requests in Remedyforce to have a selectable urgency, and then have that urgency drive the SLA or the due date for resolution.